Hello everyone and welcome to this early fall edition of Release Readiness Live. My name is John Feldman and I'm in product marketing for Commerce Cloud. Today I'm delighted to be joined by some of the product managers who are responsible for the features we're discussing today. So let me introduce you to the dream team. Billy?
Yeah, my name is Billy Lewis. I am the Director of Product Enablement for Commerce Cloud B2C, and I'm really excited to be here for my second time doing Release Readiness Live with you all.
Hi, I'm Andrew Lawrence. I'm the Director of Product Management for the Commerce Cloud Platform team, specifically around our developer experience, and I'm excited to be able to share some new developer items that we have for you today.
Hi, I'm Nancy Swan, and I'm a Product Director in the Customer Success Group, CSG, on the Strategic Customer Engagement team. So I've been living and breathing Page Designer for quite a few months, and I'm really excited to be here and, came prepared.
Awesome. Not as much.
Nope.
No, that's right. As you may know, Commerce Cloud has 10 releases per year, and we are constantly innovating and iterating based on customer feedback and changes in the market. Billy, what are the big themes for this release?
Well, in the market, we keep hearing from our customers that really being able to have a speed to production with new innovations and new things that they want to take to their customers is something that's really important to them and a key to their success. So this release, we're actually really excited to bring to you some innovations that allow our customers to quickly innovate, quickly take things to market through testing and implementation and experimenting. So these are some things that will allow you to implement, build, and release and deploy much quicker.
Awesome. That sounds great. So before we get started though, let's do the safe harbor. Just as a reminder, we're going to be talking about all sorts of things. If you're going to make a purchase decision, don't make them based on this video. Rely on the website and printed materials for all of your considerations. So bear that in mind. All right, let's get rolling. One of the most difficult things about managing an e-commerce site is always making room for experimentation and ideation, particularly as it butts up against maintenance and the other stuff you have to do. Giving development teams a safe place to try stuff has always been really difficult. I understand in this release that we've got a real treat for developers and the project teams. Is that true, Andrew?
It is. Actually, I'm here today to introduce our on-demand sandboxes.
Nice.
So we've actually been running a beta program for a number of months with about 50 of our customers and partners. And I'm now excited to be able to announce that the on-demand sandboxes are now GA for all of our customers. So one of the questions you might have is, what is an on-demand sandbox? But let's talk first about the current Commerce Cloud sandboxes that are based on our pod infrastructure. Right now, when developers want to get a sandbox, they have to submit a ticket, and Salesforce themselves has to acquire the environment and provide that to the customer. And that process today can take days, usually it's 7 to 10 days for that to happen. But with our new on-demand sandboxes, we're giving full control of being able to create these sandbox environments and set them up and get them running for you and your developers. This will allow you to innovate more quickly, to be able to increase your developer productivity, as well as being able to move faster with some of the things that you may want to do around continuous integration or continuous delivery. So now you have the ability that you can spin up a sandbox on your own. You can incorporate it into your development practices. You could, for example, automate a process where you spin up a clean sandbox, you deploy your code, you run your tests against it, and that way you can automate that process and ensure quality that goes out to your production systems. In addition, the on-demand sandboxes are great for your administrators as well. So we've changed the way that we think about sandboxes to have it be a more service-based type thing. So now, instead of paying and purchasing sandboxes on a per environment level, you can now get them on a credits-based model. So you have the ability to spin up as many sandboxes as you need to. You're just paying for what you use. And when you don't need them anymore, you can spin them back down. And that actually gives really a great new ability for customers to do something that they've been asking for a while, and that's to be able to spin up sandboxes for like simple projects when they need them going. Say you're going to bring in contractors to work on these sandboxes or on your environment for a while, and they need sandboxes for maybe only 3 months or so. The contractors can come in, you can spin up a dozen sandboxes for them to use, and then when they're done, you can spin them back down. And you're only paying for that period of time where you had them up and running.
So if I have a bunch of contractors coming in to work on a project, I can provision their environments and have them working on day one rather than waiting for IT to get some box going or
Exactly.
whichever.
I mean, and that's
Awesome.
that's a big change from what happens today, and gives a lot of power. And you don't have to have Salesforce involvement in any of that process at all. The other piece that the administrators will like is that the sandboxes and controlling these environments are all done by either an API or from the command line. So you have full control over what you need to do to spin up sandboxes, to start them, to shut them down, and you can now script things together. You can build different processes to pull them together. For example, you could get a sandbox stood up for these contractors like we mentioned, have it stood up, deploy your data, all within a few scripts and have them going in just a few minutes.
That's awesome. It also gives you a really good tool to experiment with stuff, right? Because if you crash one of
Exactly.
these development environments, it's not a crisis, right? You're not-
Yeah, exactly. I mean, any of these, you can just delete them, start over.
Off you go. Outstanding.
So one thing we wanted to look at today was to start looking at the API for these on-demand sandboxes. So if we look at the API for on-demand sandbox, which we can see here on my screen, you'll see there are a number of endpoints and things that you can look at to get details about realms, about individual sandboxes. For example, there's a GET request here where you can see a list of sandboxes. So we can scroll down and look at what's in here. And even from within this API or this UI from here, you can try it out and execute the command and see what's available. So we can see this full list of here's all the sandboxes and everything that's been running from them for my environment. And scrolling down further, we'll see other API requests having to do with things such as creating sandboxes, getting information from them, updating a sandbox, deleting the sandbox, etc. So the API itself is really the main thing that is powering these sandboxes and gives them the flexibility that they have. The other thing to look at is our Commerce Cloud command line interface, or SFCC CI, that we now have available. So with this tool, it puts a command line interface in front of these APIs, as well as a number of our other environment APIs that are in there. So this command line now gives you the power to not only create and start and stop these sandboxes, but also has the ability to authenticate, to configure sandboxes, to do things such as code deployments and data uploads and imports, to start system jobs as well as custom jobs. And all of these can be run from the command line. And since they're in the command line, they give you a way that you can script things together and get things up and running quickly. So now we'll look at a demo. The best way is to pull all these things together into a demo and look at how we can do it all together. We're going to create a sandbox from the command line and then deploy our storefront reference architecture to it. And we should be able to do that all within a matter of minutes. Okay, so from here, we have a command line. We're just going to start by typing in, so we can first have to authenticate with the system. So by going in, we can use the command line. We can log in with our client ID. That will bring us to a browser where we can type in our credentials, go through this two-factor authentication, and then back to the command line, we can start and go ahead and we're going to create a sandbox. So with a simple sandbox create command for our AAIA realm, we can get the sandbox started. You'll see it's starting sandbox number 12 there. And then we can use the command line again to see a list and status of the current sandboxes. So here's the current list of sandboxes. You'll see that the sandbox number 12 that we started up is now in this creating status, and it's starting up and getting going. Now, creating the sandbox itself from the command line or from the APIs takes about 7 to 10 minutes to get the sandbox created. So while it is still 7 to 10 minutes, it's much better than 7 to 10 days like it used to be before. So after that period of time has elapsed, now we can look at the list again, and we'll see here's our sandbox number 12, and it's up and running and ready to go. And from the command line, we can even open up the sandbox to the business manager with the get command, and it will bring us into the browser for that sandbox number 12. We log in, again with the two-factor authentication, and this will bring us right into the business manager. The sandbox is up and running, but you'll notice there aren't any sites up in the corner listed there. That's because this is a new empty sandbox. So the next thing is we're going to actually deploy the SFRA code to the sandbox. So we'll start with the simple deploy command to send the code up to the server. And then we'll activate the code, telling the server that this should be the main code that's running on this sandbox. Next, once code's there, we're going to need to deploy our data up to the server as well. So we start by uploading the code up to the instance. So we have the demo data for our storefront reference architecture we're going to send up there. The upload itself of the SFRA data takes just a little bit of time, and then it will come back. And then next, we'll go ahead and we're going to import the data into the database. So the same thing, tell the instance to import the data we just uploaded. Now, importing the data can take a variable amount of time depending on how much data you're uploading. So for us, with the storefront reference architecture, to import the data, it takes 3 to 4 minutes for that to complete. So after that time elapses, the job will finish, and now we have the data up there. And then the last thing is anytime you upload data into an instance, you need to run the reindexing system job. So you can do that from the command line as well. We can take the status information from here, and we can check and see the status of our job. So we'll see that our reindexing job has started, and now it's running on the server. And again, just like importing the data into the database, depending on how much data you have to reindex, it can take a variable amount of time. For the storefront reference architecture data, it takes about 2 to 3 minutes for the reindexing job to complete. So after that time passes, we can check status again, and we'll see that now the job's completed. And now we should have a complete sandbox. So we're going to use the get command again to open it up. We'll authenticate in. And then once we arrive in Business Manager, you'll see now we have a site selection. So you'll see that the storefront reference architecture is now running in the sandbox. And from here, we can actually also go to the storefront and bring that up. And then we'll see that the full storefront reference architecture is now running in the sandbox that we've now created.
That's really extraordinary. So let me make sure I understand what you did there. So you provisioned a development environment, you moved the SFRA into it, you put in data so that there's something for it to run against, and then you're ready to have developers work in what is a totally ready for development environment, ready to go. And you did that in 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, we did it in 3 or 4 minutes here. In full time, it would take about 15 minutes. But that's a lot better than 7 to 10 days like it used to be
Way
before.
better than, yeah, totally. Really extraordinary stuff. That's really impressive.
It is. We're very excited to now make this available for all of our customers to use, and you can now get that. It's fully GA and ready for everyone.
Outstanding. So Billy, the last time we were on this stage, you and I talked about the All-in-One Cartridge and the promise that it held for our users. I understand that today we can actually see it and experience its magic.
Yeah, we released it in the last release, but this release, along with the on-demand sandboxes, the storefront reference architecture does have the all-in-one cartridge ready to go and ready to be used. It's all really simple. It's clicks and not code, and it's some powerful features that can be implemented really easily, such as gift registry or even buy online and pick up in store. So, like I said, it's just a few clicks that need to happen. But Andrew is going to actually walk us through that and show us how that actually works.
I am, yeah. What better way to see it than to bring up a demonstration? But we'll start first with our initial slide to kind of introduce what the all-in-one cartridge is. So for the all-in-one cartridge, basically we took what was part of our storefront reference architecture and was previously available as add-on modules on top of it. And we've taken the top 6 add-on modules and we've added them into what we're calling this all-in-one cartridge. So now, whereas previously your developers would have had to take these individual cartridges and kind of stitch them together to get them working, now we have them all available and they can be turned on and off with flags to enable the functionality. In some cases, some of the functionality, you may have to do a few other settings, such as for buy online, pick up in store, you have to set up inventory records. For Apple Pay, you'll have to set up configuration for payments. But ultimately, these can be done by configuration and then just flipping a toggle switch to turn them on. So what we wanted to do today is we're going to show you kind of how easy it is now to turn on buy online, pick up in the store for your users. So let's look at the demonstration. Okay, so what we have here is we have another sandbox environment that we provisioned just like we did before. And this one, we installed the storefront reference architecture with the all-in-one cartridge installed. And we can see here from this initial list, we're going to look at men's clothing. And then we'll go down and we'll select, let's see, this pair of pants that we want to purchase. And by coming in here, by default, we can see that there's not a pickup in-store option available. Even after picking a size, the only option really is to add it to the cart currently. But let's change that and make that be better. So back in the Business Manager, from within here, the all-in-one cartridge, you can configure from Merchant Tools, Site Preferences, and then Custom Preferences. And from here, you can see that we have the SFRA Unified Feature Cartridge here with its 6 preferences. We can open that up, and we'll see the 6 options that we have available as part of this all-in-one cartridge. All of them are currently disabled, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to enable the in-store pickup option. So here, we just select yes, and come back up to the top, click the Save button, and it's really as easy as that. Back to the storefront. We can now start over and try that case again. So we can go to men's and look at clothing. We can select the same pair of pants. And now we'll see that there's a store pickup option. We can select the size. And now we have the button for pickup in store already available to us. We can bring that up, enter in a zip code, find stores. See that we have these 2 stores that are available for pickup. We'll pick the Commerce Cloud store. And from here, we can add it to the cart. And it's built into the cart too, the standard feature. So we can, when you're looking at the cart, you can see that we have picking up from the store, and we could submit this order, and that order would go through the export processes that are needed to send it to the store. So all of that, just with a simple configuration and change, we're able to get buy online and pick up in store running in just a few minutes.
It's really, really extraordinary, right? And to think about the sort of things that you can just pilot internally, right? If you want to show someone what buy online and pick up in store would look like, you can show them a working demo of it really quickly. So,
sure.
Super great stuff. That's really exciting, Andrew. Thank you for sharing it with us. Nancy, turning to you, I know that we're not only talking about features for developers today, but that we also have some great surprises for our business users as well.
Yes.
I've heard that we'll be talking about a tool that allows them to change the content on the site without involving IT. Is that true?
That is true. I'm really excited to be talking to you today about Page Designer. And as you mentioned, it's really going to free up our development resources to focus on what Andrew and Billy were talking about, and really empowers the merchants and the web content managers of the site to publish personalized target content and content pages on the site. I have to tell you, the feedback we're getting is super exciting. I actually had one customer talk to me today that, you know how it's typical in the middle of a day, your boss wants to change some content on the site. Well, typically they're having to bring in development. She told me we were able to do it in minutes with using Page Designer versus the way that they were doing it in the past.
That's awesome.
So.
That's really great.
And that's the feedback that we really like to hear. I mean, our developers are excited as well. We get to speak with them about how getting the e-commerce teams up and running on Page Designer was really easy for them to build out and add on to those components and then be able to move on to other projects, which is great for us to hear, because some of the key goals we had with releasing Page Designer were 3 things. We wanted to reduce that developer dependency, allow them to focus on new projects. We wanted to, second, reduce the quality assurance time, allowing the web teams to react and respond and create and publish content on the site. And third, we want it to be really powerful but easy for customers to be able to take and develop and build on so that they could, get live with it right away and be able to leverage all the great features.
And it's great because it gives developers more time back in their day, because now they're not supporting content, they're not having QA content, It's out of the release cycle. Magic. It's been very well received. So what we've been focused on really for 2019 with Page Designer was to deliver features that were really going to bring value to the business teams, allow them to get to market quicker, because as you know, we're getting ready for holiday, so they'll be able to roll into holiday being that much more efficient. So this all sounds super great. Can you talk me through how a customer can get started with their first page, how they actually get up and running?
Absolutely. So I'm glad you asked. So whether customers are leveraging Site Genesis or storefront reference architecture, we have what we call a starter repo of code with components and page types and layouts. We just released some additional ones for SFRA. So when we're talking about components, think about your header banner or a video or maybe some user-generated content. So what they do is they download that, put it into a sandbox or a development environment, and then you want to get your e-com team together, right? Start looking at the tool, play with it, get a sense of how it's going to be applicable to your business. So you're going to sit down and define what pages do you want to deploy Page Designer with. Right now, we support homepage, marketing landing pages, and campaign landing pages, which are very popular, as well as category landing pages, okay? So after that, go ahead and sit down and looking at what we have, start to define your requirements. What type of components would you want? What type of page types would you want? Once you've defined those requirements and documented them, you're going to pull your developer or your SI partner in. You're going to sit down and go through those requirements. So if we're talking about a marketing landing page, say, do you want a fixed layout where they're very structured in where they can put content, or do you want to give them an open, fluid layout for them to play with? Do you want an Einstein recommendation? Do you want to surface category content? You're going to have that conversation with your developer and translate all of those requirements. At that point, your developer or your SI partner is going to go back and he's going to deconstruct your requirements, and then out of that, define the page types, the components that you and your team are going to need to be able to really hit the ground running. And then finally, after that, and I should back up and say, when we talk about the development effort, we're really talking about 3 to 4 weeks for like a page type and a handful of components to get a customer up and ready to use Page Designer.
That's great. And what if I am at a company where we've outsourced most of the work to a trusted ISV or SI? Can they do this work for me as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So what we've done is, as you know, our great library, our great portfolio of technology partners, SIs and ISVs, what they've done is, to talk about our ISVs, creating components specific to that third-party technology. So many times, a lot of our customers have those relationships with UGC or ratings and reviews, those third-party tech partners. They can go out and build components, so then that allows you the power of placing that wherever you want to on the site. And then, as you mentioned, our SI partners, such as Astound, have gone out and created getting started programs really to help their customers be able to hit the ground running with Page Designer.
Get a couple of page types set up, start arranging stuff, figure out what the power of it is.
Yep.
That's super great. So I've never actually seen Page Designer in use. Would you be able to give us a demo?
I am, and I'm really excited to do that. All right, so as everybody is familiar, this is Business Manager. So typically folks are working over in the online marketing area, content slots. Instead, they're going to be working over here in Page Designer. So I'm actually on my Page Designer, my landing page, and you'll see I've got a series of pages. I've got some category landing, a home page, some of those campaign and marketing landing pages that we were talking about. From here, I can create a new page or go ahead and continue working on what I was working on. So in this case, I'm going to be a web content manager, and I've been working on this advertorial page called Getting Lost on Purpose. So what I've just clicked into is the visual editor, and I have to tell you, I tend to be a functional SME guys, but you guys know that I'm not allowed near the code. So that when I saw this, I got really, really excited. So where in the past folks were building content in content slots, really in isolation, they have right here the full page with which they can go ahead and set up and manage and move around content, targeting and scheduling. So let me take you through a little demo of the visual editor. Let's talk about localization. I was talking with one customer who has multiple locales and multiple sites, and when she found out about this, she actually said, my blood pressure just dropped. So I want to call out the localization feature, which allows you to define that default page, and then for your different locales, in this case, maybe I have a site in Canada, I can pull up the Canadian version, and what will happen is it will automatically fall back to my fallback, but I can easily update or change that content that I want for that specific locale.
So it's really exciting. It means if I'm managing multiple brands with different locales, I can do all of it in one tool, right?
Absolutely.
English, other languages, whatever.
Yep.
One tool, Fantastic.
We had a customer who just recently went live, and they've got a site in the US and as well as Japan, and she expressed to us it had been a struggle to try and get that translation and do the localization of the pages. And with Page Designer, it made it that much easier for them to get those different pages up.
Outstanding.
So, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I jumped ahead.
All right, so we're going to move over. Moving over to preview settings. So similar to Storefront Toolkit, where you can view by a schedule or you can view by a customer group, you can do that preview from within the visual editor. And this is really my favorite feature, guys. This is the device type preview. So obviously, what you see here is the ability to toggle between tablet, desktop, and mobile. What I really love that they did is it also allows you to define a custom device size. So that allows our customers to understand what device sizes your customers tend to use, and then you can go ahead and do that preview within the tool, really making them that much more efficient.
So if I'm managing Japan from the States, I can see what it's going to look like on a mobile phone in Japan.
Absolutely.
Right from here.
Huge win. Moving over to preview, I can go ahead and preview again, stripping away all of the controls. You will still be able to use the Storefront Toolkit to do all of this, but again, the goal was really to make those web teams efficient and being able to be quicker to market.
Awesome. And I've heard on the wind that Salesforce is working on some sort of a CMS something. Does that intersect with this in any way?
Yeah, I'm actually going to tease you with that on the way when we get finished with the demo, because there's some really cool stuff coming with a Salesforce CMS.
Outstanding.
So if I move over to the component library, this is what we were talking about earlier, that starter components that we have available. And you can see that I sat down with my colleague who's a developer resource, and he was able to build out some additional components that really met the business needs I have when I'm working with customers or doing demos. So you can see I've got a series of different components here that I can go ahead and work with. And then, your page structure, it's giving me a nice navigation of what really is on the page. But let me actually show you about the page. So as we scroll down, I have the ability to any point click into a component. So in this case, and I can make changes just on the fly, and I'm not having to call my developer colleague Abraham every time and saying, hey, can you come help me make this change? So I'm able to do that there as well. And then if we talk about the targeting, being able to target to specific customer groups or specific time periods, I've got some content set up here targeting hiking. I've got my top rated gear here, which again, this targeted to men, and I've got some men here. Well, I also wanted to target my women shoppers. I wanted to make sure that when they came to the site that they were seeing content that was relevant for them. So what I did is I added content here, and so now I'm going to preview. I want to see what happens, making sure that it looks good. So what you'll see is the content has updated based off of that targeting. My products have updated to women's products as well. So it's really giving me the power, again, within this visual editor to go ahead and do all this work. And then finally, when I'm ready, I'm just going to hit publish, and then I'll be able to publish it out to my staging storefront. And then it's going to be picked up in the typical replication practice that customers have in place today.
Outstanding. That's really exciting. I think business users are going to be really thrilled to have an opportunity to change content on their site that quickly. So thank you for spending time with us to learn about these exciting innovations. I can't wait to see what you build with them. I think that they're really powerful and hope that you do as well. We'll look forward to see you in Spring 20, and to learn more about the features we talked about today, you can visit the Commerce Cloud Exchange page or the Salesforce Help and Training page. Thank you so much for your time, and have a great day.